Good morning. Can you state your name and why you're here, what you're doing in front of the Kings Bay Naval Base, and what today's significance is for you?
I'm Kathy Kelly. I'm from Chicago. I'm with a group called Voices for Creative Nonviolence. And to be in front of the base on August 6th when Gilberto Zamoro is chanting and beating the drum, commemorating those that were killed in Hiroshima, and to know that just one Trident submarine is the equivalent of 1,825 times the explosives that were dropped so criminally on Hiroshima is, for me, in a sense, a highly faith-based responsibility. And of course, I'm wanting to share the faith of the 7 defendants who believed that the counsel from the book of Isaiah from so long ago, when shall come the day, O Lord, when they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift a sword against nation, neither will they continue to learn the ways of war any longer. That's our adult responsibility as well. And, you know, it's very clear right now that all around the world, there are people who are reciting that same creedal statement, maybe not in those exact words. And we know that tomorrow, when defendants go into the courtroom in Brunswick, Georgia, for oral arguments in Kansas City, defendants will go into a courtroom and they'll be tried for their action trying to stop the production of parts for nuclear weapons. And out on the West Coast in Bangor, Maine, 11 people just yesterday were arrested because they want to protest and call for abolition of the Trident nuclear fleet on the West Coast. So we each have to, I guess, find where we fit in this choreography and how we can best use talents. And it's also that huge question of how we can set aside the futility of war.
And what led you to this kind of focus and thought process in terms of your life journey that brought you to recognizing, if you will, that war should be abolished?
Well, you know, inside the Glynn County Jail, our friend Steve Kelly, a Jesuit priest, no relation, sends me postcards, and he always begins referring to me as Kathy of Kellydom Midwest. And it is a familial leadership that pulled me in. I think I've been so fortunate in my adult life to meet people who really piqued my curiosity. I thought, my goodness, look what they do. And some were going to prison or had been in prison, and some had been in peace teams or were going off to peace teams right in the middle of war zones. And so it took me a long time. My tutelage really lasted a long time. And I kind of married into it because I married Carl Meyer, who was one of the former prisoners and had been in peace teams and had a Catholic worker house going for about 13 years. So eventually, I think I began to realize that we can learn how to control our fears. One of my favorite mentors, Ernest Bromley, once said, well, don't you let anybody tell you they don't feel fear. Everybody feels fear. But I guess courage is the ability to control your fears. So I think about Claire Grady and Martha Hennessy and Carmen Tratta and Liz McAllister and Mark Colville and Steve Kelly and Patrick O'Neill. And they, to me, right now, are beacons of courage. And we have to expose that light as far as it will reach. And I think it will reach quite far. But we also have to help amplify their voices. And I think those voices will go quite far. And they've put a lot on the line, if you will. They've been willing to make a considerable sacrifice. And in the courtroom drama, if we can juxtapose the sacrifice they're willing to make with the readiness of the people at the base to sacrifice life on the planet, it may be that people will begin to sense the stark choices we face.
Kathy, you mentioned Catholic worker, and so I'm just wondering: does your faith play a role in what instructs you in your consciousness in the world?
Well, I want to say that I'm not very good at dogmas that are exclusive. I think if a dogma says that one faith is better than another, I'm probably not so drawn to that. And if any dogma says that it's justified to kill another person because of what is essentially speculative, then I'm not part of that. But with that said, I'm very, very drawn to the Catholic worker, the teaching within Catholicism of the mystical body, that past and future generations were all part of one another. The idea of the Eucharist, that we, bread broken to be shared with one another, our lives perhaps to be broken open as much as we possibly can to be with one another. I'm a great thankful believer in the life of Archbishop Oscar Romero, in the life of Dorothy Day, in the life of Jerzy Poplawski. These are some of the saints that come to mind, and when I say I believe in them, I mean that I believe we're all called to be part of that life force. And of course, Jesus and the Gospels.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Kathy.
Teresa. Thank you very much.